Before we get into this video, if you're new to this channel, do not forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Also, do not forget to share your views on this video and any kind of constructive criticism that you might have in the comment section below. And now with that out of the way, let us get straight into the analysis. There is a reason why Neon Genesis Evangelion is one of the most celebrated and respected anime out there. The series, which at the time of making this video came out 24 years ago, still commands the respect and attention of people like few other shows ever have. The controversial yet highly regarded series has attracted uncountable research articles and analysis over the years, and while a lot of its elusive beauty is still either shrouded in mystery or is up for debate, if there is one thing that's clear about the series, it is the extent to which it borrows from the idea of German idealism, and more specifically, Johann Fichte's philosophy. For the uninitiated, Fichte's philosophy divided the mind into two parts, the noumenal realm and the phenomenal realm. The phenomenal realm is inclusive of everything that we know, everything that we can confirm the existence of. The knowledge of these things is what makes up our world as we know it. The noumenal realm, on the other hand, is inclusive of anything that we cannot confirm the existence of. Fichte paints the human mind as this thing called ego, and according to his philosophy, this ego is heroic by nature. The very nature of this ego is to explore the unexplored. In simple terms, Fichte states that human nature is such that we will always, by nature, explore what we do not know about and hence come to find out the truth about and confirm the existence of things that we could not confirm earlier, as a result of which we will increase the expanse of our phenomenal realm while decreasing the noumenal realm, or the realm of the unknown. Fichte states that once man has completely exhausted the noumenal realm, which is to say that once we have come to the stage of absolute knowledge about everything, we will reach the state of godhood, or as Fichte likes to call it, the absolute. In simple terms, once we reach the stage where we have exhausted the noumenal realm and everything falls under our phenomenal realm, we will reach the absolute, which is essentially God in Fichte's philosophy. And that is where the human instrumentality project of Neon Genesis Evangelion comes into play. Simply put, the goal of the instrumentality project is to unite the minds and souls of everyone, to create a state where everyone's hearts are together, which in turn will give absolute freedom to each individual. As we see in the final 2 episodes of the series, once the instrumentality project has begun, Shinji is in a different realm. Everyone is united, and so everyone can see into each other's hearts. They are vulnerable and their deepest desires are out in the open. In this instance, we see things from Shinji's point of view. Because everyone has been unified, Shinji can see into everyone's heart, and everyone can see into Shinji's heart. Everyone knows everything. There is nothing that they do not know. There is nothing left to explore. In Fichte's terms, by being unified as one, humans have essentially exhausted the noumenal realm. We know everything about each other now. Everything is part of our phenomenal realm and there is nothing left to explore anymore. In this instance, all humans have attained the form of what Fichte called the absolute, or in other words, the power of God. And all this started with the story of one boy who has one simple reason to see his father. At the very first glance, we can see that Shinji is a troubled kid with self-esteem issues. The series, during numerous instances, brings up the idea of the hedgehog's dilemma, where a person is afraid of getting hurt, and in order to avoid getting hurt, they end up pushing other people away. Shinji is a glaring example of this. His fear of getting hurt causes him to avoid any kind of intimacy with people, and this fear of getting hurt comes from his troubled and lonely childhood. His abandonment issues have been a major cause of his poor outlook of himself, which in turn has instilled a fear of being hurt, rejected or unwanted. When Shinji is absorbed by an angel and comes face to face with his fears, he admits that he tries to avoid getting hurt and that there is nothing wrong with trying to protect yourself from pain. His fear of getting hurt, however, is so deeply rooted in his very being that it is not just limited to emotional pain but extends as far as physical pain. When I say that Shinji was afraid of being hurt, I genuinely mean that he literally tries to avoid getting hurt by any means, both physically and emotionally. While I have already discussed his obvious rejection to accept any further emotional trauma, Shinji also seems to do everything that he can to avoid physically getting hurt. Be it in the first episode where he is too afraid to pilot an Eva, or later on in the series where he ran away from Misato after a serious encounter with an angel. Shinji, at the end of the day, is just a child who has been thrust into war and will do anything to avoid any kind of pain. And yet, something keeps pulling him back. Yes, he was afraid to pilot the Eva, but in the end he did become a pilot. Yes, he ran away from his duties after the first serious encounter where he got hurt, but then again, he did come back even when he had the option to take the train and go away. Something just keeps pulling Shinji back. And as absurd as it might sound, the thing that keeps pulling him back to this dangerous world of war is in fact the very thing that causes him to be so afraid in the first place. It is his absolute lack of self-esteem that pulls him back each time he tries to run away. Because Shinji has led a life that was pretty much devoid of any parental love, attention, affection or importance, piloting an Eva gives him a sense of self-worth. In the final episode where everybody's deepest desires are being exposed, Shinji admits that he likes being praised by others and it makes him feel important and worth something. Piloting an Eva literally gives a whole other dimension to Shinji's life. And yet, while it is true that Shinji's deepest desire and reason to pilot the Eva is to be praised by others, there is also something else. Because Shinji's own self-worth is so low, he knows the value and importance of life and does not take it for granted. During the second to last battle against the angels, Kaji tells Shinji that the people who know true pain can better empathize with other people. And that is exactly the case with Shinji. Because no one has ever shown him any kind of value in his life, it is easier for him to empathize with the pain of others. As such, Shinji feels responsible for the people around him. His value for life gives rise to a sense of responsibility towards those around him. That is exactly the reason why he does not allow Rei to pilot the Eva when she was injured, and went out of his way to protect Asuka inside the magma without any heat protection. And this responsibility is also the reason why he refused to kill the fourth child inside the Eva, even when he did not know that the fourth child was Suzuhara himself. Shinji makes it a point to protect those around him, even if it means defying the orders of his father. He wants to be praised and respected, but if it means getting blood on his hands, then he would rather go back to his regular, mundane life. This sense of responsibility that he carries in himself very strongly aligns with Victor's philosophy, the one that I mentioned earlier. Responsibility had always been an important part of Victor's philosophy. Just for some context, Victor's philosophy was the result of direct contradiction to the materialist philosophy. The materialist philosophy suggests that humans, like everything else in this universe, are just atoms moving in certain patterns. However, a major criticism of this philosophy was that it completely ignores and negates the social responsibility that a person must bear. Case in point, if humans are nothing but a bunch of atoms, like every other non-living thing in the universe, then any immoral action taken by individuals, such as robbery or murder, would not be immoral at all, since it would just be a bunch of atoms moving in a certain way that caused the death of another bunch of atoms. Victor's philosophy staunchly opposes this idea, stating that the consciousness that resides within humans is what differentiates them from every other non-living thing in the universe, and with the existence of this consciousness comes the responsibility for our actions. Shinji's strong sense of responsibility towards human life borrows in major way from the responsibility aspect of Victor's philosophy, and this is exactly why Shinji absolutely loses it when he realizes that his father used him to kill the fourth child against his will. Now, spoilers, of course. Suzuhara did not die, but at the moment that is exactly what Shinji thought. On top of that, upon realizing that the fourth child was none other than his friend, an already infuriated Shinji threatens to destroy the headquarters using his Eva, not realizing that in doing so, he was essentially risking the lives of several people, hence going against the very sense of responsibility that makes him value human life so much. This internal conflict caused by his own sense of overly idealistic nature is rather interesting to watch. But while Shinji's philosophy is directly aligned with Victor's, and as a result in direct opposition to the materialist philosophy, there is one character whose viewpoint on life actually aligns perfectly with the materialist philosophy, and that character is Ayanami Rei. For a lot of the series, Rei sees herself as nothing more than a replaceable object. During numerous instances we see her mention that she is replaceable, and as harsh as it might sound, she is objectively correct. At the end of the day, she is just a clone who has been infused with a part of Shinji's mother that acts as her soul, and because her ideology leans towards the materialist philosophy, Rei also does not have any sense of responsibility. She is what you would actually describe as a bunch of atoms moving in a certain pattern. She does exactly as she is told and nothing more. She is an artificial person infused with a fake soul, and yet this is exactly what makes her journey so beautiful to watch. As the series progresses, we slowly see her turning from an object into a person of her own. It is the little things that you have to notice with her, like the first time that she genuinely smiles after Shinji rescues her. But more importantly, when the 8th angel attacks, the Eva pilots are given the option to write their final will, just in case they die. And I think this is a particularly significant moment, as Rei refuses to write her will, signifying that she does not intend to die in this battle. This is the same Rei who would always enter the battle by saying goodbye to Shinji, as if already having accepted her fate, but now at this point, she has grown. She is something more. When Rei sacrifices herself to save Shinji in episode 23, it is the biggest act of defiance. She has not received any orders to do so. She chooses to save Shinji on her own accord. Like I mentioned earlier, Rei had been infused with a part of Shinji's mother, and seeing Shinji in danger, the maternal part inside her kicks in. The mother inside her takes responsibility for Shinji's life. In this moment, as she takes responsibility for the life of another person, Rei defies the materialist philosophy that she was born into and throws herself right into Victor's philosophy. As the human instrumentality project begins, we see Rei talking about her deepest desires, saying that while she might be artificial by physicality, she had molded herself into a real person over time. And this was only possible due to the interactions that she had with other people. We see most of the instrumentality project from Shinji's point of view. As every person is united, we all become one in heart and in soul. There is nothing left to explore. We know everything about each other. Humanity has exhausted the noumenal realm and as a result, exhausted the unknown. We have now become what Victor would call the Absolute, or in other words, God. Every person now has the power and freedom to create the world that they desire inside the instrumentality. There has to be no pain anymore, no suffering. You can create the ideal world. You can create your ideal world. But what does this freedom mean? Is the power of being a literal god worth it? What will you do with this power? That is the question that Evangelion asks. For someone like Shinji, the answer seems pretty obvious. As he visualizes his ideal world inside the instrumentality, we as the audience are sure that Shinji will accept the instrumentality, as it can provide him with his version of the perfect world. A world where he does not have to get hurt anymore. And yet, defying and subverting any expectations, Shinji's interaction with the others inside the instrumentality leads him to a completely different answer. With everyone becoming one with each other, Shinji comes to know everything that lies in the depths of everyone's hearts. He realizes that he was not the only one to suffer and to go through pain. Everyone gets hurt and everyone suffers. But Shinji had effectively trained his mind to believe that he had suffered the most. It was nothing but a cheap coping mechanism created by a child who just wanted to be appreciated more than anything else. In order to avoid getting hurt, Shinji had taught himself to always expect the worst. Everyone hates me. No one likes me. They mock me. They laugh at me. I am unwanted. They look down upon me. And by always expecting the worst, Shinji was able to avoid disappointment if things did not go his way. But in following this flawed coping mechanism, Shinji had failed to appreciate what he actually had. Everyone goes through pain. No one enjoys mocking others. No one enjoys hurting others. The primary goal of anyone's life can never be to look down upon others. We are all simply the product of our environment. Now that Shinji could look into the hearts of everyone else, he could also look at himself through their eyes. It's true that not everyone appreciates you, but there are plenty of people who do appreciate you in their lives. They care about you. You don't always have to assume the worst and push them away. Life is not perfect. It is a mixed bag of moments when we are happy and moments that make us suffer. But it is in these moments when we are at our lowest that we learn to truly appreciate the moments when we are at our best. And with this surprisingly hopeful realization, Shinji rejects instrumentality. Because while his life was not perfect, it was at the end of the day his own life. One that he could mold into any shape that he wanted. One that we can always change for the better if we truly put our hearts into it.